Hello, I'm Asif Farouk of Finextra, and today I'm with Kate Toumazi of Thomson Reuters, and we're going to be talking about risk data management. So Kate, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Let's start with market practice. What are some of the changes you're seeing?
I think we're seeing a big change in how important the risk management function is within all of our clients on both the buy side and the sell side. Traditionally, it was seen as a policing function. It was there because it had to be done. It's now, under the regulations, becoming much more important. They're making a lot more decisions about how our customers are operating, what they can and can't do, which parts of the market they do and don't want to be into. And they're much more, I guess, the importance of that function, that the people they're hiring, the money that's being spent into that area has sort of transformed quite substantially. So there's just a lot more activity going on there. Not to say people weren't doing it before, but the importance within the organisation has changed substantially.
So you recently undertook these two surveys around risk. What's some of the feedback you've received from them?
I think one of the things that came out but was probably very expected is how important is data in risk management now. 75% of our customers said it's important or very important. I think we've known that for a while, but the fact that they're sort of it's top of the list of what's important is really an interesting change. I think some of the other things that came out is which risks are our clients struggling with most. We talked about regulatory risk, compliance, market risk, credit risk. Top of the list was regulatory risks, and that was sort of 70% of the clients said that's the risk they're focusing on. But I think what that really means when you get underneath it is obviously the regulations are actually touching on all of the other types of risk, the way they're constructed. So it's actually impacting the entire risk function. It's not a single type of risk that can be isolated, which in the past I think could have been the case. It's all of them that are being touched on, and you have to have a comprehensive solution to be compliant with the regulations, as well as managing your business in a sort of cost-effective way. I think the other thing that came out is the sort of cross-border jurisdictional complexity that comes out with all these regulations. Whilst they're all intended to solve the same problem, most regulators have gone about it in slightly different ways, and so for global banks or buy-side firms who are operating in multi sort of jurisdictions, how do they make sure they're compliant in all of those in a cost-effective manner? Because you could spend a lot of money just making sure you're compliant, and it could impact your business. So what's the balance, particularly where the regulations aren't as crisp in what exactly they're asking the risk managers to do? It's a lot of it's principles, or it hasn't yet been worked through. So how do those fit together is still being worked out, and it's definitely causing our customers some challenges on how they get through that.
So what are some of the challenges that the market's facing, and how can they respond to them?
So we see a lot of clients sort of previously have been using spreadsheets. That was fine for internal purposes of managing your risk, and particularly for smaller accounts. But as the regulations have come in, that's no longer considered robust. We all know that you can fat finger a spreadsheet quite easily. There's no lineage, there's no sort of traceability over what's happened. So there's a lot of investment going along in sort of putting software solutions and proper risk management practices in place. All of that needs data, so they're having to upgrade a lot of their data infrastructures. Clients have had these projects ongoing for a while, but they've tended to be cost-driven projects to try and pull out unnecessary costs from the business. Whereas now there's an extra driver, and obviously the regulatory fines that may come if you don't do this are much higher than just the cost savings that they could get. So there's extra funding going into that space. We also see a big shift towards having independent pricing and sort of full transparency over how prices have been created. I think we use the example of marking your own homework. If you're supposed to be the control function within an organisation, asking the guy whose book you're checking to give you the price is no longer acceptable. And the more transparency they can get, the more they can demonstrate to a regulator that the process is robust. And also from an internal perspective, it's clear that if you've got better control over what's going on, you're less likely to be exposed from risk, not just from the regulator, but from their internal, just their core business activities. I think the other place where we see change and challenge is a lot of risk management in the part is sort of backwards looking up till now. So VAR calculations and all that stuff is very historic looking and trying to predict the future based on the past. We do see clients trying to look for innovative data solutions that may be providing indicators of something that might come in the future. And I think that's where, you know, vendors can help, because we may have access to data that they don't have. We may be able to see across the market what might be going on, and we've got, you know, deep histories that we can mine. And join data sets together in ways that we may not have done before. So, you know, an example would be we have a solution that looks at estimates and company fundamentals and uses that to provide, you know, future-looking credit, you know, information. So the ratings agencies, unfortunately, you know, proved to be a little late to the game with the credit crisis. So clients are looking for additional data. So how can we get ahead of that so we don't end up just, you know, trapped in the situation when everything's going wrong and we're in panic mode?